Greetings and welcome to More Hymn Stories, number 81, Sweet By and By. There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar, for the Fathers wait over the way to prepare us a dwelling place there. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. We shall sing on that beautiful shore the melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirit shall sorrow no more. Not a sigh for the blessing of rest in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore. We shall sing on that beautiful shore the melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirit shall sorrow no more. Not a sigh for a blessing of rest in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore. To our bountiful Father above, the melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirit shall sorrow no more. Not a blessings that hallow our days in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore. To our bountiful Father above, we will offer a tribute of praise for the glorious gift of His love and the blessings that hallow our days in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore. So More Hymn Stories, number 81, Sweet By and By. The author was Sanford F. Bennett from 1836 to 1898. The composer for the musical score was Joseph P. Webster, 1819 to 1875. And our scripture reading for this hymn story is taken from John chapter 14, verses 2 and 3. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. John 14, verses 2 and 3. The simple gospel hymn has been a sentimental favorite with many of God's people, especially as a comforting funeral hymn. since it first appeared in 1868 in a hymnal entitled The Signet Ring, a new collection of music and hymns. Composed for Sabbath schools, compiled by Joseph P. Webster. Following the close of the Civil War, Sanford Bennett, the author, returned to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where he became the proprietor of the local drugstore. While also studying medicine, Joseph Webster, the composer, was a music teacher and was recognized as the town's leading musician. These two gentlemen met often in Bennett's drugstore for friendly discussions. Bennett tells this story of how Webster, violin under his arm, dropped in to see him one quiet winter afternoon. Mr. Webster, like many musicians, was of an exceeding nervous and sensitive nature, and subject to periods of depression, in which he looked upon the dark side of all things in life. I had learned his peculiarities so well that on meeting him I could tell at a glance if he was melancholy, and found that I could rouse him by giving him a new song on which to work. He came into my places of business, walked down to the stove, and turned his back on me without speaking. I was at my desk writing. Turning to him, I said, "Webster, what is the matter now?" "It's no matter," he replied. "It will be all right by and by." The ideal came to me like a flash of sunlight, and I replied, "The sweet by and by." Why would not that make a good hymn? "Maybe it would," said he indifferently. Turning to my desk, I penned the words as fast as I could write. I handed the words to Webster. As he read, his eyes kindled, and stepping to the desk, he began writing the notes. Taking his violin, he played the melody, then jotted down the notes of the chorus. It was not over 30 minutes from the time I took my pen to write the words before the two friends with Webster and myself were singing the hymn. Sanford Fillmore Bennett had a varied, illustrious career. He was born at Eden, New York, on June 21st, 1836, and died on June 12, 1898, in Richmond, Indiana. He was converted at a Methodist revival meeting, but later in life he declared himself a Universalist. Bennett was educated at the University of Michigan and later served briefly as the superintendent of schools in Richmond, Illinois, before moving to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, to become the associate editor of a weekly newspaper, The Independent. During the Civil War, Bennett served as a second lieutenant in the 40th Wisconsin Volunteers. It was after the war that he returned to Elkhorn, became proprietor of the local drugstore, and studied medicine at Rush Medical College, from which he graduated in 1874. Dr. Bennett practiced medicine for the next 22 years. Throughout his lifetime, he also wrote a considerable amount of both prose and verse, with his first poems appearing in the Waukegan Gazette in early 1850s. Sweet By and By is Bennett's only hymn text still in use, however. Joseph Philbrook Webster was recognized as a talented musician in his day. He studied music with Lowell Mason in Boston, Massachusetts, and spent several years in New York and Connecticut, teaching music and giving concerts. He was said to have been proficient in playing the flute, violin, and piano. Because of his strong anti-slavery convictions, Webster moved to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, shortly before the outbreak of the war. He is credited with more than 1,000 musical compositions, with his most popular song being Lorena, a secular number. Webster was the compiler of a Sunday school hymnal, The Signet Ring, in which Sweet By and By first appeared in 1868. Joseph P. Webster died on January 18, 1875, at the age of 56. Today, visitors to Elkhorn, Wisconsin may visit the Webster House and see the authentic 19th century home of the composer of this hymn, and view the violin that was first used to play the melody of his beloved gospel hymn. And now we have two quotes, or one quote, no, two, sorry. I have been dying for 20 years. Now I am going to live. James Drummond Burns, his last words. And then in this last one, to look upon the soul as going on from strength to strength, to consider that it is to shine forever with new accessions of glory, and brighten to all eternity, that it will be still adding virtue to virtue, and knowledge to knowledge, carries it in something wonderfully agreeable to that ambition which is natural to the mind of men. And that is said of Joseph Addison. Hope you enjoyed this More Hymn Stories number 81, Sweet By and By. And I look forward to seeing you in our next episode, More Hymn Stories number 82, Sweet Hour of Prayer. Until then, we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye for now, and take care.